Biology. Final assessment. Judgment. Taxonomy. The science of describing, naming, and classifying organisms. A taxon is any particular group within a taxonomic system. Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, classified organisms into two taxa, either plants or animals. The Linnean system. Carolus Linnaeus devised a system of grouping organisms into hierarchical categories according to their form and structure. Reptile cladogram. Traditional systemists place crocodiles in the class Reptile, but place birds in the class Aves. In contrast, cladistic taxonomists have grouped crocodiles and birds together in clade named Archaea. Notice the clade do not have category names such as class or phylum. Cladogram groups. The cladogram groups several major kinds of plants according to their shared derived characters. Vascular tissue, the most common, is shared by the groups. Flowers, the least common, separates flowers plants from all other plants. Phylogenetic. This diagram is based on analysis of the DNA of many kinds of mammals. These analyses do not support a systematic grouping of pentagons within either African aardvarks or South American anteaters. Instead, pangolins seem to be the most closely related to carnivores, such as bears and dogs. The three domains. There's bacteria, eukarya, and archaea. Domain bacteria. Bacteria is made up of small, single-celled, prokaryotic organisms that usually have a cell wall and reproduce by cellular fission. Each bacterium has a cell wall, a plasma membrane, a cytoplasm that lacks complex organelles, and at least one circular chromosome. Domain archaea. The archaea have distinctive cell membranes and other unique biochemical and genetic properties. Scientists think that archaea were among the earliest organisms on Earth. Scientists also believe that archaea and bacteria have co-evolved during the Earth's history, meaning that the cells have exchanged nutrients and genetic material. Domain eukarya. The most familiar groups of organisms are members of the domain eukarya. The cells of these organisms are large and have a true nucleus and complex cellular organelles. Mitosis. Mitosis is the division of the nucleus, which occurs during cell division. Mitosis is a continuous process that allows for the organized distribution of cells, copied DNA to offspring cells. The process of mitosis is usually divided into the four phases, 4 E's of understanding: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Stages of mitosis. During prophase, the copied DNA cools into chromosomes. During metaphase, the chromosomes line up along the midline of the dividing cells. During anaphase, the chromatids of each chromosome begin moving toward the opposite poles of the cell. During telophase, the chromosomes each opposite poles of the cell and cleavage furrow is formed. Cytokinesis is next. Meiosis I. DNA cools slightly into chromosomes. The tetrads line up randomly along the midline of the dividing cells. Each homologous chromosome moves to an opposite pole of the dividing cell. The chromosomes reach the opposite ends of the cell, and cytokinesis begins. Meiosis II. Spindle fibers form and begin to move the chromosomes toward the midline of the dividing cell. The chromosomes move to the midline of the dividing cell, which each chromatid facing opposite poles of the cell dividing cell. The chromatids separate and move toward opposite poles of the cell. A nuclear membrane forms around the chromosomes in each of the 4 new cells. Mitosis versus meiosis. Mutation. A mutation is a change in the nucleotide base sequence of a gene or DNA molecule. Germ cell. Mutations do not affect the organism itself, but can be passed onto offsprings. Somatic cell. Mutations can affect different organisms such as skin cancer and leukemia. Lethal mutation causes death, often before birth. Gene mutation. Point mutation. Substitution, addition, or removal of a single nucleotide. Point mutation is a change that occurs within a single gene or other segments of DNA on a chromosome. Substitution. One nucleotide replaces another. If this substitution occurs in a codon, the amino acid can be changed. Frameshift mutation. Making all amino acids downstream chain. This mutation can have a disastrous effect on the protein's functions. Insertion mutation. One or more nucleotides are added to a gene, which can also result in a frameshift mutation. Gregor Mendel. In 1851, he entered the University of Vienna to study science and mathematics. The math course proved valuable in his research on heredity, the transmission of characteristics from parents to offspring. Mendel observed 7 characters of pea plants: plant height, flower position along the stem, pod color, pod appearance, texture, seed color, flower color. Mendel used his knowledge of statistics to analyze his observations of these 7 characteristics. Mendel's laws. Segregation states that a pair of factors is segregated or separated during the formation of gametes. Independent assortment states that factors separate independently of one another during the formation of gametes. DNA, genes, and chromosomes. The human genome is the sum of all genetic information contained in a human being. The information in the genome is stored as DNA, a molecule within a sugar phosphate backbone. DNA is broken up into sections called chromosomes. Humans have 46 chromosomes in the form of 23 pairs. Chromosomes are supercoiled and wound around storage proteins called histones, so the DNA can be packaged very compactly. The coding sections are called exons, and the collecting of exons make up a gene. Nucleic acid allows organisms to transfer genetic information from one generation to the next. There are 2 types of nucleic acid, DNA and RNA. Nucleic acid. Cellular reproduction. When a cell divides, its DNA is copied and passed from one cell generation to the next generation. Protein synthesis. DNA carries the blueprint for the alignment of amino acids to form a protein. This blueprint is taken up by the messenger RNA by a process called transcription. Basic parts of the cell. Plasma membrane. Covers the cell surface and acts as a barrier between the inside and the outside of a cell. All material enter or exit through the plasma membrane. Cytoplasm. The region of the cell that is within the plasma membrane and that includes the fluid and all the organelles except the nucleus. Basic parts of a cell. Control center. Nucleus membrane-bound structure that contains the DNA. The nucleus is usually the most prominent structure within a eukaryotic cell.